Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Meta Cafe. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back and relax, and let's chat about what is going on up in the stars and the sky above us today. Well, luckily for me anyway, the moon has moved out of Scorpio and is now in Sagittarius. You gotta love Sagittarius energy for its optimism, its brightness, its ability to see the big picture. And so today what we'll do is talk a little bit about what the moon does or means when it is moving through the sign of Sagittarius. And then we'll take a look at what the connections are that the moon is making to other planets. And then I am going to dive a little deeper into Pluto turning direct later this evening, based on a question that Rebecca asked us yesterday about how long Pluto is going to hang around at the degree that he turns direct at. And so I wanted to bring that and crystallize that in a bit, because I didn't have quite the right answer. I wouldn't say I didn't have the right answer, but I didn't have the complete answer, let's say, yesterday when we were chatting. And I want to take you into new territory today. I think you're going to find over the next several months and maybe into the future here even further, that I'm going to begin talking more and more about the goddesses, the goddess planets, the goddess dwarf planets, the goddess asteroids, whatever they want to call them, right? They've dwarf planets, really. It's a planet or it's not, right? I don't know where dwarf comes from. They can have all their classifications they want in the astronomical world, but as far as I'm concerned with the astrology, it's time to bring this archetype divine feminine energy more and more into focus in our charts. For too long, we have sat focused on the masculine planets with literally only Venus and the moon anchoring any kind of feminine energy in the pantheon of astrology that we've been working with. So as I see more and more of the goddess planets engaged with other planets, I'm going to bring those things up to you. And today there's one that we've maybe talked a little teeny weeny bit about named Chariklo, and we're going to chat about her a bit today and start kind of looking deeper into her. And we're also going to talk about Selena and Sedna today. So all three of those goddesses are playing a prominent role in the charts right now. And since we're not as familiar with them, you guys all make great test subjects to see how these things are rolling in your own charts. So let's start with good morning to everybody. Okay, first off, I saw Amy out there. Good morning to you, Amy and Linda, Dennis, and Colleen McSpirit. Mimi, good morning. And Amy says, good riddance to the Scorpio moon. You know, as soon as I said that out of my mouth, I thought, you're going to have to learn to make peace with this moon in Scorpio, because otherwise I'm just going to be, bringing and drawing more issues around that to me until I can do this. Oh, whoa. Good morning, Rebecca. I hope you were here and heard me say that I'm going to dive a little deeper into your question yesterday about Pluto and how long he remains at a degree before he starts to move forward. We'll talk about that. Colleen says, good morning, still summer in New Jersey, but supposedly fall is coming tomorrow. Oh, well. Kathy Miller, good morning. Mimi says, greetings all. Greetings from Rebecca. And tiny but mighty are the goddesses. Indeed, Mimi. So first, let's talk about what the moon is up to today, and then we'll start transitioning into the other information that I have for you. So early this morning, 2:47 my time, something like that. So early 5:47 for you all on the East Coast of the United States. The moon moved out of Scorpio and into Sagittarius. Now we get to talk about what does that energy bring us. So first of all, in Sagittarius, the moon is rather free-spirited. This is the energy of adventure and exploring and discovery. And Sagittarius by nature is very much earthy and loves the natural world. So nature, animals, the plants, discovering, hiking, being out in the woods, being out in the seashores, exploring all of the various landscapes available here on the planet. So we have that free-spirited energy that we can sort of tap into for the next couple of days. Sagittarius is also knowledge-seeking energy, as it sits across from the sign of Gemini. Gemini's curiosity has depth and has legs to it when it gets to Sagittarius. It is what we would say is the sign that rules higher education. It also, in the astrology chart, is the sign that would naturally fall on the ninth house. The ninth house is a house of expansion and growth. It is the house that we would see higher education in, teachers in higher education, or learners, or people, that are interested in taking things to the next level, not just a superficial knowing of something. So we have spiritual wisdom also coming through the ninth house. So it doesn't matter whether it is classes in history or English or whatever foreign languages, or if it's spiritual teachings. When the moon is moving through the sign of Sagittarius, it takes us deeper into those subjects that we're interested in. And isn't it funny? I mean, I can't really make this stuff up. I'm writing all this stuff out this morning. Look, I mean, I've got literally, 2 pages of stuff here this morning to share. And I was thinking about it as I was writing this, that something new would pop up into my awareness this morning that I would want to take deeper. And sure enough, I'm looking at the chart and I noticed that Pluto and Chariklo are really right on top of one another. That Pluto has retrograded back into a conjunction with that planet, and or that goddess planet. And what did that mean? Right? So I had to go deep. I literally slapped my makeup on and did my hair in like 5 minutes so that I could spend the morning looking deeper at this energy. And wow, was it fascinating. So here we are knowledge seeking and we're looking deeper. It's almost like we want to draw back the curtain and we want to take a look at all of the working parts of something. In the same vein, we are also open to life during a transit of the moon through Sagittarius. There's the energy of faith here, and faith in the process that is unfolding in our lives, right? So that we're not fighting or struggling, right? Struggle is a part of our experience here on the planet, but we can also open up to that process and not allow it to take us out or take us down. This is a sign where the moon is friendly and helpful, optimistic, forward-looking, seeing the bigger picture, and has a really good feel to it. So the moon takes on that emotion of seeing optimism in everything. Now, there are, of course, then some things that we have to watch out for while the moon is transiting through this sign, because Sagittarius is a sign that's communication is often very blunt, right? They are honest, and sometimes that blunt honesty comes through without that filter of thinking, of waiting before you say what you're going to say. So we might want to watch out for that we don't inadvertently hurt people's feelings because we just had to say it, right? We just had to say it. Be quiet first, and then that way you won't just blurt out things that you may not have wanted to blurt out. We also have to watch out for self-righteousness in Sagittarius. It takes up a cause often, and it's the energy that becomes very righteous in its beliefs, in its anger, in its whatever, right? In the knowledge, in its belief system. It is fundamentalism at its worst in religion and in dogmas. So Sagittarius on the negative side takes up that self-righteous cause and does not allow space for anybody else's beliefs in there. And then we have explosive issues going on in the world because of that. Sagittarius misses often the nuances in things. For example, it is so focused on the wider world, on the bigger picture, and on, seeing things broadly, that it sometimes can miss what's going on right in front of their faces. And that's an important thing to watch out for while we still have Mars transiting through Virgo, where we still want to see the details of things. It's going to be the devil in the details that's going to get us during a transit like this of the moon through Sagittarius. And in that, sometimes then we skip steps. We skip the most important things that we should have done first, It's sort of manifesting generator energy. And what's funny, I have a daughter who's a Sagittarian and also a manifesting generator, and I can so see how this plays out in her life sometimes. There's also a restlessness to this energy, and that may cause us to feel like jumping across from one project to another. So we want to watch out for that restless energy. And my best advice to you, if you feel that restless energy, is to go out, take a walk, or do some exercise, or pick up a book and look at something a little bit deeper, using that restless energy to purpose rather than it just sitting in your body and pinging around and causing trouble, which it can do, of course. The moon in Sagittarius today is in a sextile with both Mars and the sun. So we have high energy at our fingertips here today. A sextile, remember, is a 60-degree angle between planets. It evokes a relationship where both bodies are sharing in equal measure their talents and the gifts that they have. So the sextile to Mars may mean that we have an orderly approach to the work we're doing. We may take on a routine and maybe add some things to it, or, tweak the routine. The sun in a sextile here is taking on that adventurous spirit. The sun is in Libra, and it is asking for balance and harmony, but sometimes that balance and harmony gets a little bit, off kilter. So today we have an opportunity to take action in a way that brings balance or reestablishes a harmony of the energies. So literally we have a great day on tap as it goes through, as the moon in Sagittarius kind of brings that really good feeling to us. And the transits that are engaged with the moon today are pretty positive ones as well. The only thing I think you would want to watch out for is overdoing or pushing energy, or making commitments to something that's well beyond what your energetic self can handle right now. You might understand a little bit more about being a dabbler here. There could be this tendency to want to jump around and get involved in various things, which would be very manifesting generator like. But if you're not a manifesting generator, this is not going to serve you well. So you want to make sure that you're very aware of how it is you make decisions and how it is that you're meant to proceed forward in any undertaking in your life right now. All right, let's see. Any comments? Good morning, Brenda. It's great to see you this morning. Okay, so let me transition now over to a couple of things that are going on astrologically today besides just the moon. This morning, I was looking at the chart and I went, oh, that's interesting. There's a yod here, and I did not highlight it, and I'm going to right now really quickly. I'm going to highlight this yod. And the point of the yod points up to, of all things, one of the sacred goddesses or the divine feminine bodies, and that is Sedna. And here we go. So you can see the yod. A yod is made up of two 150-degree relationships, right? So Sedna and the planet Mercury are in a 150-degree relationship, called an inconjunct, difficult, must sacrifice or adjust energies in order to make Sedna and Mercury work together. And on the other side, Sedna and the galactic center. And I thought that was fascinating, right? The galactic center involved in a yod. Whoa! And that means then that Mercury and the galactic center are in a sextile to one another. They form a very advantageous base, but the planet that they're pointing at, Sedna, is where we are having to focus, or it's the nozzle, if you will, of the hose, where we have to focus the energy in order to be able to see the benefits of the Mercury galactic center connection. So let's first look at what would that mean. What would a galactic center and Mercury sextile look like? Well, remember that Mercury rules the communication that we have with one another, and also from spirit, right? So any information that's coming in to us that then turns into communication. It also rules the mind. And the mind acts almost like an antenna, and it grabs onto energy coming in from the galactic center or from anywhere else in the universe for that matter, and then percolates through our mind and then becomes a part of our truth, or becomes something that we can discuss or we can speak about. So Mercury and the galactic center then seem to be saying that we're sharing energy of a galactic nature. And what does that mean, right? A galactic nature. When I think of galactic nature, I think of all of that unseen realm, the realms that we kind of suspect are there, that many people write about, as in, the Galactic Federation and all these things that sometimes I give an eye roll over, because I just don't know where people come up with this stuff. But the galactic center is the source of all of this wisdom that's incoming. And then Mercury is picking up that information through the mind, the filter of the mind, and then determining what it's going to speak about or how it's going to communicate that information, or even if it's going to communicate this information. That's the base. The base seems pretty positive, right? That we can, share these interesting spiritual concepts, that we can elevate ourselves with knowledge, maybe of a spiritual nature, mostly of a cosmological nature, right? The bigger picture out there, backed up by the moon in Sagittarius today. It's that Yod to Sedna that concerns me, because Sedna, as a goddess, represents, Sedna is up here at the point. I just circled her there, Sedna. Sedna in myth is an Inuit goddess. And to me, what she kind of looks at that inability that we have sometimes to disconnect ourselves from the family or the lineage, or from mom and dad, right? So how many people do you know, including maybe yourselves, hold on to some of the things that you were taught as a child, or the beliefs that came through your family lineage, and they haunt you almost, right? They haunt you because you can't seem to get that cord cut between that lineage and who you want to be now, as in it's a shadowy sort of thing, energy that comes up in your interactions with other people, or in the work that you're doing, or just in your everyday life, right? And on the other hand, it is also the parent that is unable to cut the cords with the kids, right? So unable to let them go and release them to be free, to learn and to fail and to do all of the things that they did themselves when they were younger, in finding their own path and their own, journey of life. So here, what I think is what we could really look at this at is, in order to embody our true spirit, to really be able to pick up the information coming out of that galactic center and to be able to speak to that, we've got to mature. We got to grow up, right? We have to cut those cords in order to be able to launch ourselves out in the world in a new way. And, we see a lot of retaliation talk, a lot of revenge talk. We see a lot of, immaturity going on in the outer world around us. And it's sort of showing us exactly what it is that we have to work through in order to be able to become galactic beings. I know I don't usually talk like that, but my guess is that in some grand scheme of things, that there is a body of, I don't know if they're angels, archangels, or galactic beings that are just waiting for humanity to get through this immature time and take their rightful place amongst the galactic federation, if you will, of other beings that have crossed through the same territory that we are merging through right now, emerging through. And so this particular setup here, I think today, is really our taking a look at that deeper, what is it that we're afraid to let go of in our lives, right? What are we afraid to let go of? Because it might mean that we sail off in a new direction, that we lose our connection maybe to our family or to our lineages. So take a look at what it is that you've been unwilling to let go of. Right? Is it something to do with your upbringing? Is it are you afraid? For example, there's a lot of people are leaving religions at the moment. There's an exodus away from religion, because religion has become way too limiting, and it is holding to some old energies that are like strings, right? That those cords that hold us to old belief systems. Now, I'm not advocating that everybody let go of religion. It's not that. It's that question. What is it that you believe and why? Who's feeding you what and why are they feeding it to you? And in that process, then we become more galactically focused. We're looking at the bigger picture, not just the little class wars and the little religious wars that are being fought here on this planet. More wars have been fought in the name of God than any other reason on this planet. And why is that? Why is that? Do you think that's God's intention? Do you think that was humanity's intention, or let's say, God or source's intention for humans to get caught up in these, BS wars? Nope, I doubt it, right? So now's the time. We're really seeing it here, but it's not going to be easy. When we look at a yod, it's not easy. This isn't easy energy at all. We have to adjust and we have to sacrifice. And sacrifice doesn't mean that we have to let go of the people in our lives or the things we love doing. It's about looking at your beliefs and what are you believing in that is no longer serving you. So sacrifice isn't, it isn't like the biblical expression where, people were being asked to sacrifice their children for a vengeful God. It isn't that at all. It really is more about what are you willing to let go of and adjust your beliefs in order to see the bigger picture. So Sedna, at the very last few degrees of Taurus, is probably undoing a little bit of our human attachments here on the planet in order to be much more in tune with the energy coming from the galactic center, which is energy of conscious evolution. Right? Evolution. It's almost as if, humanity is primed for an evolutionary leap, and Sedna and Mercury in the galactic center right now, helping us walk through some of that energy in order to be able to do that. I found it fascinating, right? Fascinating. Yods anyway are fascinating. But then when you start looking at what are they undoing, right? What is the undoing that's going on here? That's where the important work is for us to look at in these yods. All right, let's see how everybody's feeling about this. Monique, good morning. Gail, good morning. Just tuning in late. She's a manifesting generator. What did I miss? I was just talking about the fact, Gail, that today we have the moon in Sagittarius. There's a bit of a restless energy in that moon placement, and that can cause us to leap from one thing to another out of that restless energy, and that made me think of manifesting generators. If you're a manifesting generator, you're designed to do that, but the rest of us are not designed to do that. So it could trick us into being something that we're not. So that's how I was talking about that. Let's see. April, good morning. And Allison, good morning to you. She said the energy pull is huge today. Galactic Empire is huge. Family lineage. Wow. Lots of good stuff for us to think about here. Now, there's also a minor, I say these words and I just want to laugh because is anything that's going on in our universe right now minor? I don't know. I would say not, maybe not so much. But today, Mercury, again, the planet of communication and our minds. There seems to be a lot going on with what's going on up here. Mercury's in Libra, so we've been urged to think in balance, to reestablish balance, to find out where we are out of harmony. And so our minds being out of order, right? And having to come back into some semblance of order. And today it's in a semi-sextile, I'll get to that in a minute, with Mars in Virgo. So Virgo and Libra are side-by-side energies. A semi-sextile is 30-degree relationships between planets in neighboring signs. So when we have Mercury in Libra and we have Mars in Virgo, they're in next door neighbors, and the next door neighbors are completely different from one another. They don't often understand each other, so we have to do some minor adjusting, our mind and our communication being adjusted to Mars in Virgo, and that idea of routine and becoming more holistic and looking at the world in a different way. Looking in our minds and looking at what is our mind stuck in? What groove are we stuck in, right? What are we What are we not seeing in the bigger picture even? What are we holding ourselves to? We get this little bit of energy of there's irritation here, kind of like that sliver, that you can't quite get the last piece out of, and your fingers or your hand is hurting because of the splinter. But it's not like pain where you need to go get the aspirin bottle, but it's just irritation. That's that irritation today between the mind and the actions that we're taking. But even more spectacular in this is that Mars in Virgo is conjunct the white moon Selena. Now, we've talked a little bit about her. I did this more with the people in the membership group, talking about the white moon in your chart and what does she point to. And literally in an astrology chart, your natal chart, the white moon Selena shows you where the most good comes for you in your life. So wherever that degree and sign is where if you focus attention there, you would be generating a lot of good for others and for yourself. So it is a very benevolent placement. And with Mars, the masculine principle, sitting with the white moon Selena, both at about, 28 degrees, is it? 28 degrees of Virgo, which is also a feminine sign. We have the tempering then, the potential tempering of Mars energy, of the masculine energy by the feminine energy. So this is why I feel like I need to get my focus on those planets, because one way to bring it into balance is to even speak about it. Right? How do we, if we're not speaking about these divine feminine energies or these divine planets that are representing the feminine, are we ever really going to be able to bring that masculine and feminine to a balance? Well, I would say we probably wouldn't be able to. So we have to find something, the archetypes. Remember, the planets out here, they represent archetypes. And the archetype of the divine feminine here is the good that comes when we're sharing our gifts and our talents appropriately according to what we came here to do and who we came here to be. Now, at the end of Virgo, that would be about sharing holistic healing. It would be about sharing routine and purification, and being natural, being a part of the earth, not something separate, being in the flow of nature, not separate from the flow of nature. So we have that opportunity going on here today, with our actions being in alignment with the divine feminine. So what kind of action today would you take? Remember, the divine feminine is receptive energy, right? She holds the space for nurturing, for taking care of, for healing, right? There's a lot of really good energies that come from the divine feminine. And there's good energies that come from the divine masculine as well. Don't get me wrong. I'm not bashing the masculine at all. I'm just saying it's been overplayed and they're not doing a very good job. The masculine energy is not doing a very good job anymore because it's moved too far away from a balance with the divine feminine. So that is what we're doing. We're rising the feminine, greeting the masculine, allowing the masculine to take his proper place while the feminine takes her proper place. And we live in harmony, right? We're bringing in harmony, such a Libran quality, right? So it's way out there. I get it. This is new. And I'm still learning about all of this myself. So it's harder. I'm sure there are other layers of these energies, these feminine aspects, these feminine archetypes that we're going to want to bring in as we move through this. But we won't know anything about them if we don't start using them. So I'm adamant we're going to start using these divine feminine archetypes. Now, let's switch for a moment over to one of the more divine masculine archetypes, which is Pluto. Yesterday, Rebecca, you asked a question about Pluto and how long it would be hanging, if you will, because it's a planet that's way out there. So it doesn't like pick up speed like Mercury does in a day or so and start moving forward at a faster clip. Not so, not with Pluto. So Pluto is going to be hanging at the same degree that he turns direct at today, 20 degrees, 37 minutes, until October 6th. Then he moves a minute. He doesn't move a degree, he moves a minute, right? So he will be hanging at that 20th degree of the sign of Capricorn until November 10th. So you can see how this is elongated. Time stands still a bit here with Pluto, and time stands still at that 20th degree. And so I went to my astrological mandala book, my Dane Rudyard, an astrological mandala, because I wanted to take a look at what does that 20th degree of Capricorn mean for us culturally, collectively, individually, right? Remember, Pluto being far out there is a more generational planet. It's much more a collective planet than it is a personal planet, but you are part of that collective. And as such, you are also affected by what happens here with Pluto. So, by the way, Pluto turns direct this evening at 7:55 p.m. West Coast time, and that puts it at 10:55 p.m. for you all on the East Coast, literally just before you go into the new day. And tuning into that particular time you may be able to tap into cultural consciousness or transpersonal consciousness here. And the degree that Pluto changes direction on here is a degree about the value of group cooperation. Let me say that again. The value of group cooperation and the necessary give and take that we have to establish in order to make the group work, right? So Pluto, over the next days, weeks, months, literally while it's doing this dance here, can be pointing us to profound changes within our own selves about how we work with the group, about how we play our part in that group dynamic. I also wanted to point out to you that while Pluto was retrograde, there were a lot of power changes going on within us. Power, empowerment moving through the inner dynamics, right? Once a planet, and in this case Pluto, changes direction, then we begin to externalize what was going on within us, right? So the internal becomes the external and becomes visible to the outer world, visible even to our own selves. We may not immediately understand what's been going on within us, but when we begin to see how our lives are changing on the outer world, we go, aha, that had been happening within me, and now I'm able to express myself in a new way in the world. So it's a time for us now then to get ready to take on that change and to be living that new direction and be living that change and that transformation in the outer world. Now, I want to go on a time travel here for a bit. I'm going to take you backwards in time. Go back to the first couple of weeks of January, the first couple of weeks of this year, literally January 1st through about January 12th. What were you doing? What were you experiencing? Who were you with? What projects were you working on? What were you anticipating? Because remember, that's the first couple of weeks of the new year. We may have been filled with ideas or potential resolutions. What were we going to do? Who were we going to be? What was going to change? We were optimistic, hopefully. I remember in that time period, we were ecstatic because the last planet, Uranus, was turning forward motion. And for a few weeks around that time, we had all the stop signs turned to go, right? We were passing go. We were collecting $200 and we were moving forward. So thinking back to this time can have a lot of benefit for you because at that time, Pluto was at the same degree, right? The 20th degree of Capricorn. And he was in forward motion at that time. He didn't turn retrograde until April. But it was during those few weeks, that January 1st through 12th, which was about 2 weeks, that he was hanging at that 20 degree, 37-minute spot. So there's something that you could almost look at this as a process. There was something that you were feeling empowered to do, or someone you were being empowered to be during that first few weeks of January, the first few weeks of 2019. You processed through that. Pluto turns retrograde. Then all of those changes had to move inward, right? Now you probably faced some form of resistance, a block or a limitation, a limiting thinking, a fear, a self-sabotaging moment, an underworld moment, a crisis moment, a dark night of the soul moment, and you had to move inward and to look inward for what is in the way of your new expression of what it was you wanted to be in January, or of what all the possibles were in January. And now here we are again with Pluto changing direction, literally at the same degree that he was at in January. So it's almost like bookends, right? Where we started something in January, we've gone through a process of retrograding and moving inward, and now we've got the possibility to re-express it again outward. Now, literally, I'm guessing that this isn't going to be something you can connect with like right in the moment of me saying this. It might be that you have to do some contemplation today, looking backward at that period of time. And I'm going to remind you of something, that the gate in your human design that Pluto was sitting at was gate 54. It's again sitting at gate 54, which is about drive, ambition, goals, dreams, your visionary self. What are you envisioning for yourself, for the role that you'll play in the world, for the things you want to do, and the person you want to be. And what's interesting about that is that the gate 54 is also the beginning of the mystical circuit in your human design. It is the launching point for your hero's quest, right? We are all on a hero's journey or a hero's quest, every one of us. And it's different for everybody, right? You all have Pluto in your chart somewhere. You all have a gate 54. You might have a planet sitting there already by birth. You may not. And yet right now we all have Pluto sitting at gate 54. How are you going to seek enlightenment? How are you going to become empowered? How are you going to transform and transmute the darkness into the light? That is literally the hero's journey that we are all on. Isn't that kind of interesting, right? That would even come up today. You're welcome, Rebecca. I was thinking about that yesterday, and I'm like, wait a minute, Pluto's so far out there. There's going to be a time lag before we start to see any movement. And literally back, when we get to November 10th, it moves to the 21st degree. So it's not like, in this month and a half, it's going to move, into any kind of stellar territory. It's just moving a little bit forward at a time. And of course, any of the planets that are out there like that, far enough out in their orbit around the sun, they're going to take that kind of time, right? So, all right, any questions, comments? Who's stuck where? Or is anybody stuck? Latricia says, I'm flying out today to Vegas, my first company convention. Such a huge step for me, way out of my comfort zone. Hallelujah for you, Latricia. I don't know what you're going to do there, but I wish you the best of luck and have so much fun getting outside of yourself, being something different, allowing yourself to grow and expand. Okay, now I'm going to highlight something here really quickly. I wanted to show you a new person here, a new archetypal energy. It's not really new. It's been there. But it is a she, and her name is Chariklo, or Chariklo. You can say it many different ways. And she's sitting right now right between Pluto and Saturn. She's literally at the same degree, pretty much, of Pluto, where Pluto is right now. She's sitting at 19 degrees, 42 minutes, while Pluto's sitting at 20 degrees, 35 minutes. So literally they're within a degree of one another. In astrology, we'd say that's an orb. They're within orb of one another. And she is a feminine goddess. She is a feminine archetype. Let's break down her name. Her name, Chariklo, Chari, Chari, in Greek is grace. It's the word for grace. And Klo, Klo, pardon me, equals spinning. So we have grace spinning. And so what we see partly with Chariklo then is the spinning of the web of creation, the fates, right? The spinning of fates and how we're creating a reality. Chariklo was the sea nymph wife of Chiron. Chiron, the wounded healer, right? Who was wounded and went on his own hero's journey for healing purposes, for helping others move through pain and wounding. And his wife Chariklo supports him on that journey, but she's also in her own power a very powerful shapeshifter. She shifts into new forms that embody energies of love and the expressions of love. She's literally transmuting the disconnection that we have and the separation that we're experiencing into the healer and the teacher and the Christ consciousness archetypes. So she's really bringing back light and love and oneness. And her job is really related to forgiveness. And I was thinking about this in terms of the gene keys this morning as well. So Grace, we just talked about this not too long ago. Grace is on the solar plexus, gate 22. It sits, I don't have a chart sitting here, but it sits at the emotional center leading up toward the throat. It has a direct connection through the gate 12 to the throat. And it happens to be a channel of openness. Openness to communicate issues around charm and grace and being gracious, right? But it's also on the emotional center, so it has a bit of moodiness about it. And at times we can be in that foul mood where we do not want to express anything to anybody, lest the uglies come out of our mouth. So with grace, we know when to speak and how to speak. And we also know when it wouldn't do anybody any good for us to speak anything, right? So we're able to hold our own emotions in check without being reactive. And then forgiveness energy in the gene keys takes us to the gene key 4. We haven't probably talked about this too much. This is a gate that sits on the ajna, and it moves up to meet gate 63 in the head. And this gate 63 is where Neptune is sitting now, as Neptune has been retrograde, and it is the gate of doubt and suspicion, which one of the main reasons why we don't make decisions from our head is because doubt and suspicion and confusion and, mysticalness sits up here, and it makes it a difficult place for us to ground in any real decision-making power. The gate 4 on the ajna then has answers to some of that doubt and that suspicion. So that's human design speak, but in the gene keys, it takes us deeper into this highest expression of forgiveness. So I'm weaving in maybe perhaps some new energies in Chariklo that helps us see that we can heal and forgive the societal and cultural things that have happened in order to be able to move forward with the healing of those wounds. It is really showing us, I think, that the divine feminine embodies that energy of oneness and that sees where separation does not serve the nurturing of our children or the nurturing of things on this planet. So we're going to deal with Chariklo in a few, and I mean, I'm just literally scratching the surface of what she might mean to us. And in Capricorn, right, she's in Saturn's territory right now. And I can imagine the difficulty that the divine feminine might be experiencing sandwiched between two masculine archetypes, Pluto, Hades, right? The god of the underworld, and Saturn, Kronos, time. It's almost like she's mediating the right timing for a major transformation, right? So this is why I'm like really excited about bringing in these feminine archetypes. It's about time. Right, we gotta figure out what they mean for us each individually, but also collectively, so that we can embody them and we can be the Chariklo, weaving our fate in a way that is in creation or co-creation with the divine spirit of the universe. Amy, so many questions. I feel everything. No idea what to do with it. Definitely a transition time for me. Quit my job with no backup plan. Looking back, between January 1st and 12th was when I didn't get a promotion. I tried to put in my notice then, and my boss convinced me to stay. So much to think about. I'm a little overwhelmed. Overwhelm is a sign that you're in your head. Get out of your head, right? Get out of your head, get into your body, and follow what your inner voice is telling you. Obviously, you're the first person now to bring up something that, helps us really see what is it that we've been empowered to do, right? So you had the inkling, you had the idea back in January that this was what your next steps embodied, and then you were talked out of that, essentially. So then you go through a process now of empowering yourself again on the inner planes in order to be more directly in line with what it is that you're here to do. Who is it that you're here to be, Amy? And what is it that you want to do next? When in January, what were your thoughts about where you wanted to go, how you wanted to be seen in the world? And go back to that. I see this as a positive thing, and it can be overwhelming when you sit in thought about it. And don't do that to yourself, right? The mind will just keep taking you on a circuit that goes round and round and round. When I say contemplation, it is a whole body contemplation, not just the mind. Contemplation really takes in all of those energy centers in your human design. And Amy, I know you've gotten your human design because I remember doing this not too far in the past. Let me look at something really quickly. I want to see what type you are. This isn't going to tell me a whole much, except at everybody that I do a chart for, I write down their names and their information and what type they are. And Amy Moore, there you are. You are a manifester. Wow. So you're one of the rarer types in human design. So a manifester, you're designed to create. You are designed to take action, to start things, to get the ball rolling. So whatever it is that you've gotten the ball rolling to now, it's up to you. What comes next, right? What comes next, Amy? Don't think about it. Just get into your body and keep creating, spinning your web, right? Spin your web of creation and get into your body's wisdom. Amy says, manifester, this also has me questioning a lot of things. Questions are good, right? Questions are good. Manifestors are really I always think of them as, the when you're playing pool, right? You break the ball, the breaking ball, right? As the breaking ball. So you're the ball that breaks open the game and allows everybody else to play, but you're not necessarily the one that stays with the ball through the whole of the game. So you kind of set that stage and you open the pathway, and then you move forward with whatever it is that your mind is moving, your body is moving you toward. And of course, your mind is also playing in that. And if I remember correctly, I'm not even going to speak to that because I don't remember what your authority was. For some reason, I want to think it was ego authority, but I don't know for sure. But you could always have a reading, Amy. That's usually the best way to do it, right? Fall back on having someone that is who has a fresh viewpoint of what it is that's going on, looking into your life and guiding you, helping you, right? And you can do that with a human design reading that seems the likely path for you. I know manifestors are often loath to reach out and get help. If you need help, ask me. Amy is emotional. Okay, so emotional, that is, you're an emotional manifester, and your emotions then create a powerful field for you to take action on. This is where a conundrum is born. A conundrum is where you have seemingly these two different things going on within you, pulling in opposite directions. So a manifester energy is about creating something, starting something, getting out there. They act. They're the just do it's, right? That Nike swish, the just do it, that's the manifester. But the emotional authority in you has to wait for clarity before taking action. It slows the process down while the manifester wants to take action. And it can create some anger in you when you don't seemingly get anywhere, where you can't get traction on your ideas or on the things that you've taken action or wanting to take action on. So you've got to make sure your emotions aren't on some part of the up and the down, that you've got clarity. clarity of what's really true for you, of what really feels good to you. So don't ask yourself open-ended questions in this case. Ask yourself questions like, did leaving this job feel good, right? Did it make me happy? Taking the next step, what is my next step? Does that make me happy? The yes and the no part is helpful here because it helps you crystallize a little bit of what it is that you're feeling. And it just makes it easier, because otherwise, if you ask yourself too many open-ended questions, you end up in that mind again, going round and round. So you want to be a little bit careful for that. Good one for Carrollton. I feel pushed to step out in public support of feminine principles, but it does not seem to be gaining traction. I know it looks that way in some ways. I'm not sure if what you mean is what you're doing isn't gaining traction, or if the divine feminine in reality is not gaining as much traction. But you have to remember the divine feminine operates differently than the masculine, right? It operates more in the dark, if you will. And when you look at masculine energy, it's light energy. And this is not a value statement, by the way, it's light energy. And the feminine is dark energy, or the darkness. It takes both, right? Look at the what is that thing called? Oh my gosh, yin yang sign, the symbol for the yin yang, right? You have the masculine and the feminine in balance, in harmony. It takes both the light and the dark. So the operation of the divine feminine is a little more behind the scenes, right? It's a little quieter, and yet not in any way, shape, or form weaker than that of the masculine. It's why when you look at a human design chart, you look at the feminine, and it is the woman behind the scenes, the feminine energy, that sets the stage for how the society will relate to children, to feeding of children, to raising of children, to education of children, to our food supply, and I mean on, to nursing and healthcare. All of that energy is happening quietly in the divine feminine energy. And it's that divine feminine energy that says in a way to the masculine energy, go make it happen, right? It's that Jean-Luc Picard, get underway. The words he says totally went out of my head, but make it so. That's what he says, make it so. So the divine feminine is holding that space of creation, of the womb, the darkness in the womb, where all things are possible, where all creation is possible, and then says to the divine masculine, do it, go out, make it so, make it happen. And literally, we've gotten this backwards, right? Here on the planet right now, it's exactly backwards. For whatever reason that we had to experience that, right? Where the divine masculine is trying to do it all and isn't doing a very good job of it, right? He's gotten out of his own place, and the divine feminine has succumbed to that. So the divine feminine operates behind the scenes. Note in a family, and you go back to your own family dynamics, right? And doesn't the masculine, the father figure in a family, often defer to what the mother wants, right? The mother says, we need to go to the grocery store this weekend because we need to refill the shelves of the refrigerator and the cupboards. And the divine masculine says, okay, let's go do it. Here's the money, go do it. And I mean, I don't mean that in a sexist way either, right? It's, again, the feminine knowing what it takes to support the family. It's the divine feminine that says, do your homework, right? Get this done. And if you don't get this done, then I'm going to bring in the protector energy, or I'm going to bring in the discipline energy of the masculine to bear on this. If you're not going to listen to the feminine, then we also have the masculine energy of protection and discipline. We can push that out there. So it's bringing these things into balance in non-sexist ways, in being in your proper position, right? Being in your strength, your real strength. This is why the divine masculine is so afraid of the feminine. It's dark, right? It's creative. And it's really, the power lies in the divine feminine. But the masculine has tried to usurp it, to cover it up, and has created no end of trouble for humanity here. So what we need to do is to tap into that creative force, to tap into that darker energy, and not darker as in evil, darker as in the womb, right? The womb energy. And what are we creating? What are we going to lay as the template? What are we going to rise up and demand is going to take place on this planet, right? I've said this many times. If the divine feminine could get her creative act together and march upon, your centers of power in whatever countries you're in, and demand our children be fed. We don't give a shit how it is you're going to pay for it. Find a way, right? You can't not feed kids. You can't not take care of your elderly. You can't not defile the earth, right? She must be taken care of. We don't care how. We just care what. Find out the how, discover the how, but this is the demand. This is the thing, the command that comes from the divine feminine, and then is on the shoulders of the divine masculine to make it so. That's the proper route that this energy moves in. So there you go. Amy, yes, indeed. Good for you. And Rebecca, clapping hands. Yay. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. So do your own due diligence, right? Look in your own charts, right? Your charts. If you get a chart from me, all of those divine feminine pieces are there, which makes this whole thing in the middle look like a mess, but they're there almost intuitively. But for the last several months, if not the last year, I've been putting those pieces in the charts for everyone to see. You all have Sedna, Eris, and Black Moon Lilith, and Chariklo, and Pallas Athena, and Ceres, and Selena, all in your charts. I've put them there for you. If you don't have a current chart, get one. Email me and get your chart. Circle those women, circle those feminine bodies in your chart. And if you need help with that, you know where you can find me, and I can help answer that for you. Along with circling the moon and Venus, together they make up that feminine energy. And where are they in your charts? Literally, most of the divine feminine pieces are asteroids or dwarf planets, and they're further out, so they have a slower movement. This is why the divine feminine hasn't in the now been able to make those changes. It's a longer period of time. It takes time to build to these energies. Ceres is also in your charts for you. And if you wanted to, you could even go to the other ones, Juno and Vesta, and any of the other pieces that are of the divine feminine. Okay, well, that was a lot for you all this morning. I hope everybody's doing okay with that. If not, you can bring questions to me tomorrow or email them to me. I will see you all tomorrow morning. And tomorrow's Thursday. Tomorrow, Mercury moves into Scorpio. Woohoo, the depth. So we'll be talking about that tomorrow. All right, everybody, take care. Have a wonderful day. And look to the stars. Your answers are all up there. Bye for now.